Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the FTD webinar titled 5 Crucial Marketing Metrics to Track for Success. With a combined 26 years of marketing experience, we are excited to welcome today's featured presenters, marketing consultants Tracy Oswald and Marisol Chase. As a quick housekeeping note, Tracy and Marisol will be taking questions throughout the session. So if you have a question, simply type it in the chat box in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. All right, let's get started. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Super happy to be back with you all again. We are talking today all about marketing metrics. And I just want to say before we get into it, Marisol has a ton of really great stuff for us today. If you have a question, as always, just put it in the chat. And if we can answer it, we absolutely will do that live. And to get everyone kind of familiar with the chat, if you would like, let me know. I'm in Dallas, Texas. Let me know where you are joining us from. Where in the world are you joining us from? Put it in the chat so we can see. So we're going to talk about metrics, why they're important. We're going to talk about what it really means for you as a business owner, right? And as someone who's trying to get people to look at them online, buy from them, convert, and what good and bad ways to look at marketing ROI and different marketing terms. So I would love to kick us off, Marisol, if you would give up. All right, Atala from Paris. Oh, we got stuff in the chat here. Lori from Minneapolis. Hey, Lori. Lance from Los Angeles. Amy Walker from Scranton, PA. I am an East Coast girl myself, originally from New York. Don't hold that against me. Jose from Peru. Wow. Okay, we have Atala from Toronto. We have people from all over the place. So happy you are all here. Again, any questions, comments, thoughts, put them in the chat. Marisol, please give us like a high level intro to how we should be thinking about this broad, umbrella term of marketing metrics.
Sure. I think the basic way to look at it is we want to make sure we understand how everything's working. So marketing can be scary. We're putting money out into the world and we're hoping we're reaching the right people. Marketing metrics allows us to see if we're actually doing that correctly and making sure we're reaching those right types of people. And I think that's really important because we can always change and do things differently versus a set it and forget it kind of way to look at things.
I totally hear you. And before we dive into some of the more common and important marketing metric terms that we talk about and that you hear, I would love to know in the chat, like, what's your biggest pain point when you hear the word marketing metrics? Like, what comes in your mind? What's your biggest pain point that you hope that we cover today? Because we want to give you what you came for, and if you let us know, we'll do our best to make sure that we cover that. All right, so let's start to, Marisol, let's get into the nitty gritty. We hear a lot about, the terms like impressions and clicks and ad spend, all of that. Can you start to give us an idea of how we should be thinking about this in a way that's really easy for us to understand?
Sure. So a lot of terms I'm going to say throughout the presentation are really ways that we can understand how we can look at success. So we look at impressions as the way that we see the big piece of the puzzle or how we see everyone come together. We look at clicks as when we get into that nitty gritty audience of who's really going to come into one of your shops and become a customer or to be online. And then to conversion is really where you have those golden goose customers, like we've talked about in previous webinars, of those individuals who are going to spend lots of money throughout the year versus just kind of coming in one time. And the key to digital marketing is we can get really targeted with things that we're doing, making sure we're in the right geographic footprint, or making sure we're actually reaching people who are interested in flowers or home decoration or different things that flowers come into play with. And even when we start with the biggest piece of the pie, we're able to get down to those right audiences so that we make really smart marketing decisions with clicks and conversions leading to customers and finding more of the right people and to be able to create different audiences off of that.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And again, I would love to know when you all think, everyone who's out there watching and joining us here today, just the 3 terms that Marisol just gave us: impressions, clicks, and conversions or customers. Right now in your business, what's the most important one for you? Is it impressions? Is it clicks? Or is it conversions? Tell me in the chat so we make sure we gear this toward what you want to hear. So Chris says conversions. I see some other people typing. Makes total sense. Amy Walker says conversions. Absolutely hear you, Amy. Marisol, let's talk about, as people are starting to answer, and I think I see where they're going, and it makes perfect sense why they would say conversions. Can we talk a little bit more about why is it really important as a business owner to understand which metrics are important and which metrics are going to lead to you getting more business?
Sure. And I think when we look at metrics that are important, obviously we look at how that defines success. So impressions are ways to look at things kind of in an awareness thing. You want to see the amount of people who are getting to your website, seeing your ads, etc. And conversions are more of that lead-based type of thing. But you can't fill the funnel without getting all of those pieces. So I know I get distracted. I have a dog. I have things going on all the time. I'm not going to convert quickly. You have about 2 seconds of my attention before I check my phone. And I'm sure at some point someone here has checked Facebook already, because we check it all day. So with that being said, we want to make sure we're in all of those places. So we need to think about how impressions, conversions, and clicks all come together to get to that conversion state, hitting people 5 to 10 times. And that's where marketing metrics are important. Are you reaching enough of the right audience? Are they converting? Are you hitting them with the right message? That all comes into play to make sure we're hitting things correctly. And that really ties well into making sure that we understand those basic aspects. And 49% of businesses don't understand those basic pieces. So we want to make sure that we're in the right place, in the right time, and putting out the right message to the right people. Is it that you're in an area with a ton of florists, so there's a lot of competition there? How are you standing out? Or is it that there's only one florist shop in the area? Does that make it easier? And all those things come into play to make sure we have the right information out there.
So it's like knowing which metrics are working for you, or which of your metrics say that your advertising and marketing campaigns are working, can help you make better decisions so you stand out more, to increase the impressions, to increase the clicks, and ultimately the conversions.
Correct. And throughout the presentation, we'll dive into that a little bit more to really understand what things have worked and how we can look at that. And that's going to be a big aspect of how we can see how customers really convert.
Yeah, totally. All right, everyone, you know where the chat box is. Tell us, what marketing metrics have you tracked in the past with the different marketing and advertising that you've done? So what marketing metrics have you tracked in the past? We want to know. We want to make this really valuable for you and speak to exactly what you're doing and exactly what you want to know. What do you think, sidebar, Marisol, while people are typing, what do you think the biggest misconception about marketing metrics is that like business owners have?
I think it's when you look at things like web traffic, or the fact that you're getting a lot of people there, that they're the right types of people. So taking a step back and really understand that you have to switch up messaging. You have to look at how things are working. And I think that's a big misconception of, well, it worked last year, it should work again this year. And that's not always the case. Season by season, it's going to change, and other things will come into play as well, especially if a new florist shop opens in the area or the competition changes.
Okay, totally get that. We've got some answers coming in here. So Logan G says he tracks the age. The age, is it, Logan, is it of the person making the purchase, or give me a little more there so we know where you're going. Amy says, I don't understand what you're asking. Okay, great. Thanks for telling us. I track where an order came from. Marisol, can you help Amy out with exactly what we're asking in a way that will help everyone understand?
Sure. So Amy, basically what we're looking at is when you're running a marketing campaign, whether it's social advertising, search engine marketing, etc., what things have you looked at? So is it just the amount of people that got to your website, or just impressions or clicks, or are you actually diving into how that converted into sales or customers. So we look at cart sizes of things. It really depends on how in-depth you're trying to get. Obviously, the end goal is to get more sales into your stores, whether that's online or in-store, but all of these pieces kind of tie into that. So if you ran a marketing campaign before your busy season, did you notice an uptick over last year? That's really a way that we can look at marketing metrics in an easier format.
Cool. That was great. Logan says, is answering the question that I asked him. So the age of who is clicking on my posts or engaging with it. And that's smart. Marisol, why is that smart for Logan to track that?
Well, I think a big piece of it is really understanding how to continue to reach the correct person. So, for example, if you're trying to reach people who are between the ages of 25 and 45, but you have an ad out there that's someone who's between 65 and 75, and you're noticing that people within that second age range are the ones clicking and converting, you need to change up creative messaging and to look into that to make sure you're hitting that right audience. And that also ties into what platforms you're on. Are you dressing for success on Snapchat and TikTok for your younger audience, or are you looking for that older audience on Facebook and Instagram? And that all changes depending on who you're really trying to convert with.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Just a couple more before we move on. Julie Cooper says she watches Google Analytics. Julie, what specifically, like what's one or two things on Google Analytics that like you zero in as soon as you open that dashboard? We would love to know. And okay, this is also from you. You also watch Facebook Analytics. Yeah, like what are the things that you're zeroing in on when you open those two platforms? Jose says buyer persona. So Jose, how do you figure out buyer persona? Super curious when you're looking at your metrics. All right, as people are typing, let's move on to talking about things at the most fundamental level, Marisol, starting with impressions.
Perfect. So we talked about impressions a little bit earlier, but that's the biggest piece of the pie. So understanding that people need to know information about your business at least 7 times before becoming a customer. Like I said, we're all distracted. The digital world is going at a very fast pace. So we want to make sure that you're out there in your audience. So it's not just the fact that you have a store location that they could walk by, but also the fact that you're there when they're looking for things. So actively searching for a florist near me, etc. And like I said earlier, I'm sure that all of us have looked at our phones, and that part of things when we're sitting, watching TV, listening to webinars, being on our phones, that's the reason why we need to put so many impressions out there to get people to really see the message and continue to understand your business. And that ties really well into clicks. So clicks is really when the interest starts. So we look at how we can see the fact that not only did they see your ad, they started clicking on it. They want to see your business. They want to learn more about you. Maybe you had a really beautiful piece of florist art out there and they wanted to see that. Or maybe there was some great sale in your store and they had that interest and are interested in going to kind of that next step. And the last piece of it really ties into those conversions. So getting to the website, understanding that people are going to actively search and purchase birthday flowers, for example. And something you want to keep in mind is conversions are really important to have all over your website. So you want those conversion points like shopping for birthday flowers, shop now, sign in, cart, etc. The fact that they can click on the different aspects of your website to actually be able to pick certain types of flowers. And all of those are going to be crucial to being able to get more customers in your store. If your website is difficult to navigate, you lose them immediately.
Yeah, totally. That's a great point. And I'm just monitoring the chat over here on my other screen. Julie answers us and she says she's still getting familiar with those dashboards, but she likes seeing where they are searching from, mobile or desktop. So Marisol, for everyone here, can you explain how Julie, knowing if they come from mobile or desktop, how that can help her stand out in the future?
Sure. I think a few things look at that. So obviously, when we think about the basics, you want a strong foundation with your website. Is your website mobile friendly on someone's tablet, phone? Does it look the same way that it looks on a desktop? Can they easily click into it? And then also looking at the types of platforms that you're going to spend more time on your phone versus on a desktop. Yeah. So although we look at social media and different aspects of that, we want to make sure everything continues to be mobile friendly by the way that it's set up, the way the creative looks, all those things are going to come into play. And then when you tie into things like creative messaging and size on a mobile device, for example, you have a lot less space to speak. So you want to have things stick out more easily than you could on a computer where they have a little bit more time.
Yeah, great point. Let's move on. I want to, Jose also joined this conversation. I want to talk about what he shared, but if we can move on to the next slide, and then we'll get Jose's point of view.
Sure. And the last piece of everything is really understanding conversion rate. So when we look at everything that we're seeing, we want to have that niche audience to begin with. So the fact that we know that people are in market for flowers, the fact that they're going to have those larger cart sizes, have that higher household income, et cetera.
Yeah.
Then we're getting to the fact that people are starting to click, and then the fact that they're starting to convert. So your conversion rate are those individuals who are really becoming your customers. So that's huge, because we want to understand who's actually becoming them, analyze them, and find more of them. So we talked about personas a little bit earlier, and that's where conversion rate comes into play. So who am I as an individual? I live in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm between the ages of 25 and 35. All of those things will come into play as to how you reach me versus how you might reach someone else. I'm going to spend a lot more time on things like TikTok and Snapchat versus my parents might spend a lot more time on Facebook. So we need to understand those personas to be able to make sure that we're reaching them in the best way. And that's really where conversion rate comes into play.
Yeah, and Jose actually captures that really nicely in his comment. It's all about location, age, buyer ticket, product, etc., to configure the best audience. Totally exactly what you said, Marisol. Love it.
And that's the world that I get to live in with everything that we do. We want to make sure that we're not only hitting the right audience with the ways that we're on different platforms, but making sure the creative speaks to the people correctly and doing things like A/B testing to get the best conversion. So all of those aspects come into play. So you can keep it super basic and make sure you're hitting the right audience in your geographic footprint, or you could go really in depth and make sure you're looking at what creative's working best to get that best conversion. So marketing can be easy, and those metrics are important, but it can be more in depth depending on how comfortable you get.
Yeah, totally. Marisol, as we advance to the next slide, Chris has like the great question that everyone wants to know the answer to, and it's the hardest to give a succinct answer. He's asking, so what does the industry, like the floral industry, consider a good, quote, conversion rate, right? And it's just funny that he asked that question, and your slide is, what's a good marketing ROI? Not necessarily a conversion rate, but it's a ratio. So maybe you could take us down the road of first, let's define what ROI and ROAS stand for, right? And then talk about a strong marketing ROI. Then maybe we can go a little bit deeper into Chris's question.
Sure. So I'll start with ROI versus ROAS. So ROI is return on investment. ROAS is return on ad spend. Now, those two metrics are a little bit different. Obviously, we want a return on ad spend. You want to get significantly more than what you put into it. And a return on investment is kind of seeing how all of those pieces pulled together. Now, you asked kind of a loaded question, because conversion rate is going to be different depending on where you are geographically. So where I live in the Boston area, there are floral shops everywhere. There's huge competition. So in that area, it's going to be a little bit harder to get a return on investment or a return on ad spend or a strong conversion rate without spending significantly more than you might in a smaller area that just has less people. So to kind of keep it simple, we obviously want to see a strong marketing ROI is 5 to 1. So we're putting in, let's say, $1 and getting $5 back. But there's a lot that plays into it. Like I said, geographic footprint, the audience you're trying to reach, what types of things you're trying to put out. Is it that you want to get someone in to kind of purchase flowers on a regular basis, or are you looking for more wedding customers? All of those aspects come into play as to get a different conversion rate. So long answer short, it's difficult. And I think it really depends on what you kind of see your business model as.
Yeah. And I think too, Janet, behind the scenes, maybe if we can park that question, if there's a way we can get Chris an answer, I think that would be really great, because there are industry standards for everything when it comes to conversion rates. But inside those standards, Chris and everyone, it all depends. Do you have a fully optimized, website that's, like Marisol said, that's, absolutely kills it on mobile and on desktop? Is your like ad copy speaking to the exact audience? Have you tested it and A/B tested it, and have you optimized it? Like there's so much that goes into how do you make your conversion rate better? So maybe we can think about that for future webinars potentially. Great question, Chris. Thank you.
And I think we kind of want to understand how ROI shows who's really doing the work. So we've all had a group project before. So this is something obviously throughout high school and college. We understood that someone did 99% of the work. Someone had no idea what was going on. And someone said they were going to help, but they didn't do anything. So how do we look at that as to understand the best marketing metrics? So marketing metrics allows us to break down this group project and understand, did search actually do 90% of the work? Or were there other things that parlayed into that? So when we look at different attribution, we kind of understand search always gets last click. So that's where we see when we're in Google Analytics, the fact that search engine marketing was how we got people to convert. But
so can we pause? Marisol,
Sure.
can we pause for a second? When you say search always gets last click, can you tell everyone exactly what you mean?
Sure. So I think the easy way to break it down is to go into something like Google Analytics. So when you're searching for something, you don't always go to Google first. Sometimes you are on your Facebook page, you see that there's something interesting. You're reading a news article, you see an ad for it. All of those things are how you click into getting to the actual research aspect of it. Or you started by researching floral projects, for example. So I'm going to put together a bouquet for my mom, and I'm not creative and I'm not capable of doing that. So I start getting down the funnel and I'm like, okay, let's go to a florist shop and have one custom created. Those different search objects happened by the fact that I started looking at how to do it. I saw a Facebook ad, I saw a digital ad, and that led to me actually getting to search engine marketing, which was that first click attribution or that last click attribution. But all of those other pieces led to me actually getting into the door. So that's really how we can look at how ROI and marketing metrics really work.
Love it. Love it. All right. So let's, we talked about the funnel, right? Impressions and clicks and conversions, and we sort of had that slide. Let's talk a little bit about where we want to focus our energy when it comes to marketing and how the metrics play out based on the different, stages of the funnel.
Sure. So I think we look at things in a lot of ways. So obviously everyone here wants sales. So that's in that purchase and loyalty stage. But if we're just focusing on that area, everything else is going to kind of dry up. So we want to make sure that we have lots of people at the top in that awareness stage, and then moving people kind of closer down the funnel so that your funnel never dries up. So you always want to have things out there so people are aware of where your business is, things that you're doing, getting them excited, even when they're not ready to specifically purchase, but moving them all the way down the funnel to the point that they're ready. That's going to get you larger cart sizes. It's going to get people to be more interested when they're ready, especially when you think about those busy seasons or holiday times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for everyone out there, what do the marketing that you're doing now, where do you think it impacts the funnel? Like, do you think if you're doing Facebook marketing, or if you're doing search engine marketing, or if there's other, like if you're doing display advertising, what the marketing that you're doing, which stage of the funnel do you believe that it really, really impacts? I'm curious to know what you think, so we know how to, talk to how marketing affects your funnel and how you can create more top of mind awareness and get more out of the bottom in purchase and loyalty. So when you think about leads, right? First, let's define when we say leads in the context of this conversation, what do we mean exactly?
Sure. So leads is really getting people who are interested in your business. The fact that they're actively searching for flowers, they're actively going to fill out a form fill, reach out to a consultant, etc. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but this is really what I meant when we were talking about how people actually get to the purchase aspect of things. Were they looking at digital marketing to get to their website? Were they looking at a Facebook ad? Were they looking at an email? Did they go straight to your website? People go different ways on the consumer journey to get to the end goal, but we want to make sure that we're looking at all attribution of that. Multiple touch attribution, or the fact that people are hitting multiple points, is kind of the world that we live in now. It's very seldom that we get someone who just clicks on one thing and automatically converts. So we want to understand where those leads come from so we can be on the best places and continue to put money in the right areas. So are most of your leads coming in from Facebook or search or Instagram? Do we need to reallocate based off of that? And it's ever changing.
Yeah, I love how you've captured this, because it really does show all the different ways. I know for me, when I search for anything, it might take like a couple days or a couple weeks. And depending on where I'm searching and what app I'm on, if I'm on my phone or my desktop, different results show up. And it's really about being in the right places for the right demographics to find you, because knowing that this is true, that we're going to look in lots of different places and lots of different app and desktop experiences before we make a decision. I love that. So
exactly. And sorry, go ahead, Tracy.
No, go ahead.
And I think that really ties into how we're going to continue to dominate the market.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we're everywhere your customers are at, because when we look back at the previous slide or think about how consumers convert, we don't just look at how we hit them on search engine marketing, but really how we look at everything. So I'll pose this to you guys. If you're a florist that is just on Google, are you more likely to see that people are going to convert? Or business B, are you going to see them when they're on a Facebook ad, an Instagram ad, they have a YouTube channel, they have display ads, and also search? Which one are you more likely to choose? I personally have better conversion when I see it all. And across the marketing channels, we've seen that. When you're in more places, people are more likely to convert. And that goes back to the fact that we need to hit people 7 to 10 times before they make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to, for me, it's like credibility. Like, how much does a business believe in itself that it takes the time to have everything you just talked about? They've got a YouTube channel, they're doing this, they're on TikTok, they're on Facebook, they're doing search. Like, they really believe in their business and they want to find customers who are interested in buying from them. Like, I love that. And I will respond much more to, just like you said, when a business has all of those channels activated. So important takeaways. Let's talk about tracking, right? Like, I think it was Julie who mentioned, or maybe it was Amy, Facebook analytics and Google analytics. Let's talk about, like, what does tracking look like for you, and what should we be thinking about when we're thinking about reporting and tracking and analytics?
So I think we look at it in a few different ways. So Google Analytics and Facebook Analytics is a lot for us. It sets a baseline of understanding how things are working. And then sometimes when you're working with different marketing companies, they send you an Excel spreadsheet saying, hey, here's the impressions, the click-through rate. But what does that actually mean? So you have the capability of looking at different dashboards and seeing different aspects to make sure that we're not only hitting the right users, are they engaging? Are they converting? How much money did that actually make you? What's creative look like? What's working, what's not? When you're able to tell the second story, you're able to make more because you're finding the right types of people versus what you can just see on a spreadsheet or behind just numbers. And Google Analytics does a great job of diving into some of that. And you do have the capability of really seeing more in-depth tracking depending on what you're looking at. But you always want to make sure you're able to tell the best story with analytics, because it leads to more sales and conversion across the board.
Yeah, and this for business owners, people who are running an actual business, this can feel like a little scary and confusing.
Exactly. And I think that's a big aspect. So marketing can be scary. You're putting something out in the digital world and not sure if it actually works. And I think we always need to take a step back and truly understand what's working, what's not working, and see how we can fix it. Because when you look at a business and how you were last year versus this year, or even last month versus this month, all of those things come into play.
Yeah.
And if you're not changing as the world is, then you kind of fall behind, and those the sales metrics you were trying to hit don't always come into play. So analytics allows us to see all those things.
Yeah. And I think also, look, I think as a business owner, you would want to know some of this stuff, but that's also where the marketing concierge can come into play, right? Helping them understand and make sense of all of this to convert better.
Exactly. And I know I've gone through a lot of topics throughout this webinar, so I wanted to kind of end it with a few questions. So how do we know that reporting is working for you? So do you have an easy to understand reporting dashboard, whether it's looking at Google Analytics, Facebook, one of the concierge dashboards? Do you understand which marketing investments are working best? Are you spending a lot in search engine marketing? Is it converting for you? Are you spending more on social? Is it not working? Do you lack easy ways to keep track of new leads? So your website's crushing it, leads are coming in. How are you tracking those? What goes into play there? What's that process like? And do your team members follow up with the prospects, whether it's inconsistently or consistently? And how can you make sure that's working? And all of these things are going to come into play to make sure that small business owners and florists specifically understand how their marketing works. So I'll leave you with this to kind of have thought starters, but it's always important to make sure we understand what's working so that we can continue to grow your business and help with whatever we can.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much all for being here. And Janet, if they want to access this to get those questions there, they can't write them down right now. How would they do that?
Thanks, ladies. I just dropped the PDF of the PowerPoint that you guys just ran through. So that's in the chat. We can send that to everybody. This has been recorded. So I can include that when we send the recording out to everybody as well.
Sweet. All right.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing a lot of great information with us. Thanks to everyone for taking the time out of your schedule this afternoon to attend. And as I just mentioned, that recording will be available on demand on the FTD Mercury Network Florist YouTube channel that I will email to everyone. And for more education programming from FTD, visit ftdi.com to register for the upcoming free webinars and design shows and view all of those past education programs on demand. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.